The Corsair Carbide series SPEC-OMEGA is the new iteration of the Carbide series offered by Corsair. The SPEC-OMEGA is a mid-tower PC case with striking angular looks, a unique angular front glass panel, and a tempered glass side panel. The front panel I/O offers a power and reset button, 2 USB 3.0 ports, and of course, a headphone and microphone jack. As nice as it would be to see a Type-C port on the front panel, with the SPEC-OMEGA only costing $99, that is something we will not see in this price range. The tempered glass side panel is held in place by 4 Allen key screws. Thankfully, Corsair has provided the necessary Allen key to remove and replace the screws holding the tempered glass panel in place. Unfortunately, these 4 screws are the only thing holding this panel in place. On other tempered glass cases, you will find pegs that the tempered glass sits on, and then the screws go into those pegs. In my opinion, this is a much better and safer design, because on the Corsair case, once you take out the last screw, the tempered glass panel will be at the whim of gravity, and that never ends well. The tempered glass does sit on a lip at the bottom of the case, so I recommend taking out one of the top screws last, allowing you to better keep the glass from falling out once all the screws are removed. The front panel supports up to 320mm fans or 240mm fans. For liquid cooling, you can fit up to a 360mm radiator in the front, providing you lots of options for potential liquid cooling. Unfortunately, airflow is not as good as other Corsair cases, allowing for air to only be pulled from the bottom air vent and also pulled from the top. The bottom of the case can support a power supply up to 200mm long and has a hard drive cage for 2 normal-sized hard drives. This air vent at the bottom is also the only air vent that comes with a dust filter. The top of the case can be removed by taking out the 2 screws in the back and popping off the top panel. Unfortunately, the top panel does not come with any sort of dust filter. That being said, if you have any other Corsair case using the same body as the 400C, which this case does, you can reuse those dust filters on this case. Dust filters can also be purchased aftermarket, but I am disappointed that this case does not come with them, as the same priced 400C does. The front panel can also be removed by pushing in the tabs just on the inside of the chassis. There's also one at the top, so don't forget that. And before you fully pull away the front panel, make sure to disconnect the LED cables on the bottom right-hand side. A dust filter can also be inserted in the front without causing any issues to the front panel. According to the specs, the top panel can support up to 2 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans, or even a 240mm radiator. Unfortunately, from my experience building in these cases, using any high-end motherboard or RAM with high heat sinks will not allow you to place a radiator at the top, and it is even hard, near impossible, to get 220mm fans to install, let alone 240mm fans. For this build, I was only able to get one 120mm fan installed towards the front. The back panel is held in by 2 screws. Unfortunately, Corsair decided to leave out the self-catching screws out of this iteration, and the 400C in the previous iteration had them. That 2-drive cage can be uninstalled once removing the back panel. It is held in by 2 screws in the back, and on this model, there's also a screw on the bottom that needs to be removed. Once all the screws have been removed, the hard drive cage can be easily taken out to provide you more room for liquid cooling or even a push-pull setup. The back of the case does have plenty of tie-down points, upwards of 12 different points in fact, and the 3 rubber grommets do make for a clean look when routing cables. The channels on the edge of the case offer a good spot to route cables, so cable clutter can be kept in check. The springs on the 2.5mm drives are not as strong as on previous models, and your drives will no longer pop right out, which is amazing because on the 400C they did. A major downside to this case is the lack of power supply and drive bay covers that are provided on both the 400C and the 460X. I think if Corsair provided this as an option, the case would look a lot better. Thankfully, Since this does use the same body as the 400C and 460X, if you do have an old 400C that you're using and you're just getting this case to maybe spice things up a little bit, I can show you how much better it looks with these covers in place. All in all, the Corsair Carbide SPEC-OMEGA is a great case, and a great case to build in. The front panel is very unique and looks great, but the lack of dust filters does set it back, and I would recommend the 460X over this. For $40 more, with the 460X, you can get all the bottom covers missing from this model, 3 dust filters, and 3 RGB LED fans, along with the LED fan hub. Either way, you really can't go wrong with Corsair cases, and it really comes down to personal preference. I hope you all enjoyed this case review, and if you did, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more videos.